Behind all the glamour.
Behind the Lux listings.
A raw take on all things real estate.
All things New York City.
All things us. This is Steve Cohen and
Tim Malone.
And we're here for episode 5, season 2 of our podcast, Real Talk.
And St. Patrick's Day is right around the corner.
But before we start, we were just talking, well.
No, we're going to save that for another episode.
Okay, fine.
You guys got to tune in.
Okay.
Today we're going to talk about, on the theme of St. Patrick's Day.
Yes. Lily's Bat Mitzvah on the theme of St. Patrick's Day. It's going to be
we're going to talk about that.
Okay, it's going to be a very religious podcast.
Yes. Finding the pot of gold in every situation and how that impacts real estate and our lives. I mean, we have to pivot so many times. So I think being optimistic and finding the good in tough situations.
Which you have to do in everything in life.
Yeah, but I think in real estate,
even more,
we have to do it a lot. But before we go there's some. Did you hear about the Flatiron building?
I just heard about this.
Yeah, it's going up for auction.
Yeah.
So if we all pool our money,
we can own a piece of history.
We can each
of
have
New York
a floor
City.
and live in the Flatiron building.
It's
apparently
such an
the owners
building.
are bickering.
Yeah.
And they can't figure out what to do with it.
Right.
So towards the end of March, it's going to go up for auction.
It's such an iconic building. Have you ever been in the building?
I've never been in.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really amazing. And when you're in different buildings that surround it, when we're selling property and you look down upon it, it is so fascinating to see the angle and how that northern tip comes to such a narrow spot the way it was built.
I think that area is interesting because when I moved to New York in 2006, I feel like it was just sort of coming about, I think.
Yeah, totally. Madison Square Park.
Madison Square Park, Italy. Like those, all of that sort of transformed that area. And then I think residential, people started buying the lofts and
15 East 26, where I sold a lot in that building.
Yeah.
We just appraised an apartment in there.
And now it's so central.
It's central. Shake Shack is in the middle of Madison Square Park. And that used to be like Needle Park. I mean, that was not a safe place to go. And
totally.
A lot of drugs going down there.
Yeah. One of my first summers, I watched the U.S. Open tennis on a big screen.
Oh, in Madison Square Park. Oh, that's cool.
It was a fun summer night. Yeah.
And now you're going to the...
Now I go, yeah.
Now you look how far you've come, Sam.
The Bat Mitzvah.
Oh, wow. We're going right there?
When this airs...
Yes, it will be behind us.
It will be behind us.
And I'll be living in the glow and the glory, I hope.
So you have a lot to still do to get ready for it?
No, I think I said to someone...
Other than the Botox session tomorrow?
So that's what I said we should talk about. I just made a comment before we went live, which was, we were talking about skin routines and guys who do skin routines. And I said, I've never had Botox. Can you imagine if I all of a sudden decided to do it this afternoon or tomorrow, the day before Lily's Bat Mitzvah, and went overboard? And like you guys saw me Saturday and you were like, okay, what the hell did you do? But I'm not going to.
We'll have to tune in to find out.
You'll have to tune in. It's not happening. Lily's Bat Mitzvah. So I have to tell you, this has been, wow, thank God for Kirk, but a lot of planning and we have support and people helping us, but a lot of fine details. And there's this saying that you don't want to get lost and have more bar in the bar mitzvah than mitzvah, meaning you don't want it to all be about the party and the physical. But, there's a whole the spiritual and the real meaning of why we're doing all this. And a great party to celebrate is wonderful, but you want to make sure you have that balance and know what the real purpose of the day is. So I will say that as of last night, and particularly this morning, when we were in Lily's school, they do an in-school bat mitzvah, so we had that this morning. I feel like there's nothing more we can do. All the details have been handled. It'll be what it will be. And now we just have to be in the moment and be present. And hopefully we'll have a beautiful day that's shared with lots of friends, family.
Who's the bridezilla, you or Kirk?
Who's the bridezilla? I will say Lily's been pretty cool in general, although she has
It was you or Kirk. That's who my money's on.
I don't think we have our own particulars that Kirk is so incredibly detailed and he's planned so many events in his career. That's, with premieres and those type of things. So he'll ask questions and know to ask about things that I would never think to ask about. And we have a very good friend, Laura, who's a major event planner, and she's helping out on the side. So, and again, we'll have a call, which, all right, I'll tell on myself. We had a Zoom call with, we're having it at Soho Playhouse, so we had to have tech and some other people involved on this Zoom call. Apparently, I fell asleep on the call last night.
Shocker.
Yeah, I guess so. But after a call like that, we'll get an email where Kirk and Laura will just list out all these follow-up questions and things. Again, I'm really big picture. This is what I envision. This will be great. And then they break it down. So thank God for them. Are you more you're more
I'm
detailed.
more planning in advance. And then it seems like day of, Don's like running around. Something will start at like 6 p.m. and at 5:30, he's like, needs to get the last like plant that has to be in the corner.
Because he's focused. All of a sudden he got focused on
a plant.
Yeah.
And the party will not go well if there isn't a plant in the corner. And I'm like, honestly.
That's a little bit me, but okay. Yeah.
I'm like, no one's going to know about the plant in the back room in the corner.
But he's fixated on that. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
All right. So moving on, had another good week real estate wise.
What did we do? So let's just touch on that for a second.
Yeah.
Luxury, $4 million and above. There were 30 contracts signed.
31.
Yeah. Last time I think this is the second time this year that we had 30 or more in a week. And
6 deals were over 10 million, which is pretty big for us.
Yeah, right now. Yes.
The category is 4 million and above, but to have 6 above 10 million. And we also had 8 more than last week. So we've just been consistently growing.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting. I get asked a lot when we're out and about. And I think people's outlook is that the unknown about the economy, I don't think people understand how busy the New York City real estate market is right now. And again, we always say data's a little delayed. So what you're reading in the media and the press is sometimes a couple weeks ago, but what we're seeing day to day,
what we're experiencing is different.
The last couple of weeks have been really strong.
Very busy. We had, let's see how it ends up. We've had bidding wars as a team. We had one of our strongest months in February, putting a number of things in contract.
Number one?
We were ranked within our company in our category for our team, number 1 in the company, which is very cool. And
March is strong. January was strong. February and March is going well.
Yeah, that's right. But let's go back to what you said, bidding wars.
Yeah.
So it's not all over, but we have experienced some bidding wars. We've had on our own properties. We've had with some of our buyers.
Yep.
There's definitely demand out there and people are stepping up. Sellers are also more negotiable, which is...
Well, I think that's it. I mean, it's what you said, the meeting of the mind. Sellers are coming down a little bit.
Right.
And truly, mortgage rates people are realizing we're in this 5 to 6 range. God willing, the Fed doesn't raise them super high, but I think people have got accustomed to 6% mortgage rate. And that's, where we were in October, November, when people were just sort of learning what 6% means. Now where people are comfortable with it. So
I think I agree with that.
Okay, so daylight savings after the bat mitzvah, you're going to lose an hour.
When's that, Sunday evening?
Well, Saturday night when you go to bed.
I thought we decided we're stopping.
This is the last one.
They've said that?
Yeah.
This is official?
Thank God. I think it makes 0 sense.
Yeah, we're not farming anymore.
Yeah.
But or we're not.
But I think it's good because, I like the fall one when we gain the hour. This one's a little, takes me a week to get used to
adjust.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So good luck.
Great. So this is the last year we have to deal with this?
Last year. And then I think we'll be on the steady.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Pot of gold, finding an opportunity in every situation.
All right. Before we go there, since we went to a Jewish place, talking about the bat mitzvah. So,
this is my first bat mitzvah, by the way. I've been to bar mitzvahs.
Oh, I asked you the other day and you said, yes, you've been. Because growing up, friends in your neighborhood.
They were boys.
Went to bar mitzvah. Okay. Yeah. So not that I was going to go here, but traditionally it was always a bar mitzvah, which is when officially in the Jewish tradition, a young man, a boy becomes a young man and takes on the ritualistic responsibilities in Judaism of what a man does. But do you know what the real meaning? Do you know what definition of a bar mitzvah is?
I do not. I think I'll learn on Saturday.
No, that's a bat mitzvah. I'm going to tell you now.
Okay.
A bar mitzvah is when a young man of 13 realizes that he has a better chance of owning a professional team than playing for one.
Huh.
That's a bar mitzvah. It's a joke, people. You didn't get it. Anyway.
So what?
If you were Jewish and knew what we were like as
Got it.
athletes. Okay, there you go. Anyway, wait. So your first bat mitzvah, which will be exciting. We're doing it with a little bit of edge. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. But St. Patrick's Day.
Next week, is that? Yeah, next week.
For an Irish boy.
Yep.
Okay, so as growing up, the secular version, I know what it represented for me and for, I would say, I guess most people. But what about, was it part of church or anything?
Not part of church. I think it was more just like another family holiday. Come together and have a dinner, a traditional meal of like corned beef and cabbage.
Any other traditions?
I mean, other than the like, I hate to use the word corny, green, but nothing of the silly stuff. But right. What aligns with like Valentine's Day. But for us, it was more just like a family dinner. Got it. Yeah. And will you, or in your adult life, did you do anything for St. Patrick's Day? More of the secular version. No. Like a bar crawl or something like that. Oh, a bar crawl? No, I used to go to that bar crawl in Hoboken.
Oh.
Yeah. And that was like, started in New York and people were drinking on the train over. And then, that was a day. And now that I'm older, I'm like, I can't believe
avoiding it.
God, keep me away. Yeah. Now we send Caroline.
That's right. Irish blood. Yeah. She'll be drinking on our behalf.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's talk about the pot of gold.
Okay.
All right. So
this really, we're saying pot of gold as a metaphor for opportunity, and there's a silver lining, if you will, or good can come from anything.
Yeah. And I think this is also sort of like a look behind the curtains, because it's very easy in real estate with marketing for our audience, our clients, to think that...
Oh, the appearance?
Yeah, that all we sell is, super high-end, fabulous apartments, and everything just goes smoothly, and like, except for like a outright fight at a lunch that we never do anyway, that people see on TV, but like they don't see the nitty-gritties and like running around to 30 different appointments to show a buyer, and then the buyer decides they're going to buy in Boston instead of New York.
Or a deal I'm working on now, which is a magnificent apartment, that super high-end renovation that the seller never moved into, but things are coming up along the way with
the renovation.
The renovation's stellar.
Yeah.
But wait a minute, when was the work actually done? Have certain things been tested? Yeah. Yes, the windows were updated, but the building now has a new requirement for what those updates are. Did that fall within the time? Do these hit the requirements? All these small but very important details that we deal with all the time. Yeah. Listen, we deal with, you're dealing in some cases with banks and what banks require, what the building or the board requires for their own individual building. And so there are a lot of different details and aspects of a deal that I don't think people realize. We don't just, turn the key and open doors and let an apartment fall upon someone.
Yeah, and I think you just always have to keep, I don't always like saying like, if it's going to work, if it's meant to be, it's going to work out. Because I do think, as you're saying, hard work and putting in the answers and the questions and really does matter. But, I think back to March 2020 when personally we had our apartment listed. It was on for like 9 days. We had a full ask offer.
Oh, yeah.
And then the world shut down.
Yes.
It was like the stock market crashed 4 days in a row.
Oh, it was that woman.
And the lovely woman said,
I remember.
I'm single. My 401k has just lost like 25%. And the deal went away, and it was like, we had to pivot as the world had to pivot, and now 3 years later, everything's okay. And we sold the apartment.
Was sold a while ago. Yeah.
But I think it's those kind of situations that are totally out of our control. I didn't know when I was listing that apartment that the world was going to shut down 12 days later. I would have never listed it.
So there's the aspects of the bigger things like COVID that affected everyone in the entire world, literally. And then there are aspects of in our business, the things that come up. And I have to tell you, this is now coming on 24 years in this business, that so much, we always say it, keep the emotions between the lines. Sellers and buyers look to us for how we're reacting. There are certain things where we just say, you know, I've never seen this before, or even if we say we've never seen it before, let's get to the bottom of it. Let's figure it out and then make an educated decision.
And I think you also have to sometimes trust the process and take a little bit of a leap of faith in real estate. I mean, we just saw a couple weeks ago with, what was it? You know, people in the deal wanted insurance policies and the contingency on the financing. And it was like, what if there's a flood on the upper like east side and the entire building floods? And it's like,
the example was if a car crashes into the lobby.
Right. Exactly. You know, and it's like, sure. I mean, do I want to say it could happen? Right. But at some point you kind of need to take a leap
of faith. And how realistic is that's actually going to happen?
Yep.
The other thing I'd say along those lines are when we had a deal, I'm speaking of one specifically on Fifth Avenue, that you found it had been on the market, came off the market. And again, because we knew how to maneuver and work this and knew who the players were and who somehow we got to know we were representing the buyer.
Yep.
We found out who the attorney that represents the seller.
Yep.
Someone brought it to our attention who that was. And we happened to have a very strong relationship with that attorney, got in touch with that attorney, and the attorney literally said, let's just work with me directly.
Yep.
You know, the brokers are great, but they don't know all that's playing out here. And, you know, obviously we kept the seller's broker in the loop, but because of that relationship and we were able to go there, we got that deal done.
Yeah. And I actually just was in that apartment this weekend.
Is it done?
It is amazing.
Okay. I need to go see that space.
Go see it.
Did everything?
Everything. It's
pretty great. Supposed to be a minor renovation.
One of the most beautiful 2 bedrooms on Fifth Avenue.
Wow.
Yeah. Pretty great. Yeah. But I think in the last couple of years we've seen, and I've said this before, but I think New York City, people that are into New York City real estate, I think are driven by the national economy. And I think with what the Fed's doing now and what happens in the stock market with the fluctuation, some of that stuff is truly out of our control. And, you know, I think being aware of the outside factors, but also knowing that it's New York City. And as you say, it's always going to be, you know, the best place to live. And we saw that. We saw that in the last 3 years. How many people left and came back?
Yes.
How many people realized that, you know, these other places, though they have their advantages, they're not New York City.
And their appeal.
Yep.
Yeah. We certainly saw it during, or I did during 9/11, when so many people said, I'm leaving the city, I'm not coming back. And then after being away for a few months, missed the energy, and it wasn't all that they thought it'd be cracked up to be.
Okay, I have a question in terms of like real estate. People look at us as like the center. A lot of times we're like the center of the deal, and having
broker?
as a broker, and having to pull in all these different people. I personally find selfishly it helps when we can use the people that we have relationships with, lawyers and
inspectors.
But sometimes we don't.
Correct.
You know, and sometimes like the hardest part can be pulling everyone together. And we've seen that before. We've seen, you know, where, I don't know, I always think technology could solve it, but I think it's that human conversation of getting on the phone.
I think it's a great point. So obviously with our team, meaning different attorneys that we work with, mortgage brokers, bankers, inspectors, whatever it may be, that we have these relationships with, it's so much easier. We've worked together. We know each other's, you know, shorthand and language and how to communicate, and we trust each other, and we all know that we're successful. So there is a level of trust. However, I'd say with the people and we have it all the time, where a lawyer comes in, or, I mean, we're lucky. We've done it a long time. We know we can maneuver and put aside a lot of the nonsense to get to the point. But certainly we deal with maybe an attorney that won't speak to us and will only speak to the client, or has a definite idea about how to do something where maybe we feel like it's actually creating more work. But I think I'd say in general, we're pretty lucky and we have a good reputation. So even if someone doesn't know us and they're smart and reasonable, they'll see how we operate and work. And we're all, frankly, we're all on the same team. We're either working on the behalf of our seller or our buyer to get a deal done for them.
But it doesn't always feel that way. And that's what I was saying is sometimes, sometimes there's knots in the rope and people that just want personalities and reputations and something comes into it.
Or ego.
And and I think, again, to the theme, finding the opportunity and being able to smooth everything out. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, everyone wants to get the deal done.
I think we're really particularly good with that. I'd say our whole team, we have like some call it a no asshole policy. I wouldn't say I'd say we try to be no drama.
Yep.
And I think we're successful at that.
All right. So talking about opportunities, sometimes deals seem like they're going
south.
I was going to say left or right, but south. Sure.
Okay.
What and you referenced 24 years, what's some of the weirdest things you've had to do to keep a deal intact? Or what's like the weirdest? I know there's like sometimes buyers' requests, like situations. What?
I'll say the property, 50C Central Park South. Did we talk about this? And I told you the story. Anyway, this was, and I'll say the name, it was all over the papers and one of my favorite sellers. So it was Sydney and Caroline Kimmel were selling their New York apartment. And this is a few years ago and actually crossed into COVID, right? Yeah.
Totally. We
sold it in COVID, sight unseen.
21.
Someone in Canada that actually their broker came and they never came to see the apartment. But the strange request, and I say the names of the sellers because A, I like them, but B, because they were so agreeable to this. So this apartment was magnificent. 27th floor, incredible. Some of the best views I've ever seen of Central Park. Mm-hmm. Massive apartment. Terry Despont had designed it. Really beautiful with outdoor space and terraces all overlooking the park. Anyway, I showed the apartment once or twice to these buyers. He was in the oil business. And then we got a strange request that they wanted to come for the weekend and stay there. And they wanted to stay. Now, the Kimmels weren't living there.
Like sleep in the...
They wanted to use the apartment and see what it felt like. And again, this is not the Kimmels' full-time home. So, they have all their things there.
Right.
And Caroline, to her credit, said, their housekeeper was going to be there if there were any issues. And she said, what's the worst they can do? Go through my drawers? So we agreed to it. They did not end up buying the apartment.
Was there any money exchanged for it or?
Nope.
So they basically got an Airbnb.
They literally got and we did our background on them. Yeah. They were legit.
And they didn't buy the apartment.
They did not.
Didn't you have this same, am I crazy? You had this in Chelsea too, by Bed Bath & Beyond. Didn't you sell an apartment on 20th between 5th and 6th? And I think somebody wanted to sleep over. I think the seller said no.
I've never had anyone agree to it.
Yeah, I think they asked for
it. I've had the request maybe 3 times.
And I got it in the one in Chelsea. I don't know about 50 CPS, but in Chelsea, it was across from the loading dock.
Oh, yes.
And they wanted to hear the sounds.
They wanted to, which is legit.
I get it.
I don't know if they just wanted a really magnificent stay in New York City or what it was, but
that's what I'm going to start doing when we travel.
There you go, when you travel, right.
But then you have to spend the 3 months leading up to it, negotiating a deal and showing interest to get a free weekend. It's a lot of work.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was certainly interesting. And thank God we sold it, not to them. And let me see, what else unusual? I mean, there's been lots of...
Have you ever been like, I think New York City is people just are so intrigued by this place. So a lot of times we'll hear of situations where people just want to look at apartments.
Yeah, sure.
Have you ever felt like you're just getting the total runaround? And when did you notice like this person's just wanting to do a tour of Fifth Avenue here?
Oh, no. I don't know if I've had that. I'll speak on a few things. First, we did have someone that I think was a con artist and was not legit and presented doctored up financial statements that we realized afterwards or caught them early enough, but was putting in big offers on places. This is in the last 4 years this happened. And they until it began, began to see holes and poke holes, did I realize this is not legit.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what actually happened there. I just wanted to get away from that
But
situation.
we screen people normally, especially
Oh
for
my
our
God.
big listings. And I
Yes.
think that
Of course we do.
it's really important.
This was a buyer.
Yeah.
This was a buyer that came to us
Yeah.
and was staying at all the right hotels for long periods of time and
Yeah.
had people. Yeah, it was just, listen, there are those people out there in the world.
Yeah. And at some point you just cut it off and move on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cut it off. And then as time went on, you'd hear people would bubble up and you'd hear about this person again.
Good.
And they went through a similar situation and with two particularly very reputable brokers at the
So
same
what do you
situation.
think? What do you think the person's objective was?
I don't know. I don't care. I think that they're not, I don't know. I think that this was more than they just wanted to see apartments. There was something deeper to all.
Got it.
And I don't, yeah. But I'll tell you another quick story. This is years and years ago. I was representing this seller, condo downtown on Park Avenue South. And this buyer wanted to buy it sight unseen, put an offer in, and kept saying, and we had a contract out and kept saying, I'm going to fly up from Florida. I'm going to fly up, and kept canceling. And then, according to him, he had his own plane, so he was flying up on his plane. And then at one point, he made a comment about the flight got canceled or it was delayed or something. And he was in the airport. He made a reference to something that only would happen with commercial flights. At which point, I was starting to have doubts anyway. This is years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, I thought this is your plane and that you fly private. And he got all flustered, and I realized he wasn't real.
And you think the best thing is just to go your way and move on to the next thing?
Unless I think that this person will continue or threaten or hurt someone.
Yeah.
You may, with that person, again, this is so many years ago, we put out, I told management, and we put out an email and let it get around to the different brokerages, just to give warning if a certain person calls you this profile, this name, you should know.
Yeah.
So yes, we did. In that case, we did that. I mean, they're frauds, and it's wasting everyone's time. And
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the person that wants to show up to the great apartment just to see it, but I don't understand the mindset of like, let's meet every 4 days to go see,
There's just put on.
But I had that guy from, I don't even know where he was from. I mean, I think he wanted to be friends or more than friends. I don't know. A couple of years ago. And finally I had to say,
Park Avenue?
Yeah. We put in like 3 offers and then we'd pull them out and then we'd put it in and then, and it was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Listen, some people I think are legit and just can't make a decision. And, that's real.
Yeah.
And we have those people. In this case, I was going to say, you made the comment, you don't understand, just put on Netflix. I mean, there are people that are a little, I'll call them touched, out there. So
that's nice.
Yeah. Isn't that? Anyway, but no, for the most part, God, at this point, we're vetting everyone. So much of our business is referral.
Yeah.
But occasionally.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah. Look at someone like Anna Delvey or, something like that.
And I think the other lesson I've learned is not to make assumptions, and like you really need to sometimes get information and have conversations. If a client comes to you directly and you know who they are, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if they are coming through a referral, to really understand that they understand the process, and you're not making assumptions on financials, and because a lot of these buildings have qualifications and profiles,
absolutely.
And you can spend weeks going around with a buyer on the assumption that there's a profile that you thought was there, and it's like, wait, there isn't family money? I just assumed there was.
Years ago, one of the most established brokers, and I'll say her name because out of respect, she was amazing, Sharon Baum, who had her chauffeur-driven rolls, and it said sold one. Do you even know who Sharon is?
Yeah.
Okay. So Sharon had a buyer who was legit and knew her, but her finances had changed so much, and she had fallen on some hard times, and Sharon did not know that. And when they got to the co-op process, the financial profile looked completely different.
Yeah.
And Sharon was kind of caught and just said, I assume she
Had what we thought.
had what she did 3-4 years ago.
So what did she do?
She got turned down by the board and they moved on.
They moved on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say though, going back to that one person a couple of years ago, or not even a couple, 4 or 5 years ago, that was, running us around and putting offers and representing that they were someone they weren't. The first time this person wanted to take us to dinner. We went to dinner, someone who I was working with at the time. Very nice restaurant, picked up the tab, nice conversation, but we walked out. I don't know what it was. They got in their car and left. And I was standing there and I turned to the person I was working with and I said, how did we get these people? And Rob, who worked with me, said, why? And I said, something's just not adding up. I knew it. I had a gut feeling at that first in-person meeting at dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not saying I'm always right, but trust your gut.
Yeah.
So there was something there that just didn't feel right.
And yeah, I think cutting it off and moving on is,
part of life.
Yeah.
It's like any relationship.
Yeah. And putting the energy somewhere else.
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
what
And
we have to do.
We have limited time and energy to spend on all of our clients, buyers, sellers that, you don't want to, who wants to waste time on something that's not legit?
Yep.
So I'll take that full picture, right? I had that gut feeling at dinner.
Yep.
So we're talking about it now, 5-6 years later?
Mm-hmm.
And so the pot of gold, if you will, the lesson to be learned, what's the silver lining is that it's more evidence to trust your gut.
Yep.
And that you should trust your gut. And again, we're lucky for the most part, these are the rare occasions, but trust your gut.
But they're also experiences and lessons learned. And I think that's, for me, like hearing you even talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some of it, but hearing it, I think it's lessons learned and not assuming like every email request that comes in is going to be, eventually a deal. Like you really need to go through the process, figure out what it is. Again, we have our clients, we have our spheres, and then because of our reputations, we do get calls and,
Sure, of course.
I think just learning about
how you have to vet them, what
and where to
what
spend your
makes
time,
sense
which
and
you
where
said,
to spend
because
your
we have
time.
limited time in a day. So
Yeah.
where to spend the time. So, yeah. All right.
Should we wrap this? All right. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Mazel tov on the Bat Mitzvah, episode 5 of season 2.
Correct.
Let us know your thoughts, comments, questions. Stephen Cohen NY on Instagram.
And I'm Tim P. Malone NYC. If you guys have questions, reach out.
Or you want to discuss any type of
Anything
topic
other than Botox, we'll discuss it. We'll see you guys next episode.
Take care.